Hi, I'm Dr. Ivan Misner, founder of BNI. Welcome to our video series on the BNI traditions. This is part 4 of the BNI traditions. Now I'm going to talk about our tradition number 3, keeping the fun in the fundamentals. You know, if you're not enjoying the journey, you're probably not going to enjoy the destination. I spent the first 10 years of BNI in trying to build the program, really focusing on the fundamentals, and I lost track of something really important, and that is having fun. Years ago, I learned that the best chapters in our organization are ones where when I walk out of the meeting, my cheeks hurt from laughing so much. They're having a great time, but they're also following the program. And so if you can have a balance with that, if you can follow the system, stick to the fundamentals, and at the same time have fun, you're going to have a great chapter. Well, a lot of people say to me, yeah, but look at the policies of the organization. The policies require accountability. There's accountability that is mandated in any successful referral organization. You see, one of the strengths of a group like BNI is that many of the members are friends. One of the weaknesses of a group like BNI is that many of the members are friends. It is both a strength and a weakness. To avoid a BNI group becoming a coffee klatch, it's really important to focus on accountability. And that's why we have the policies, which were, by the way, created by members. Every policy that exists in BNI was created by our board of advisors, which is made up of members of the organization. So let's take one of those policies, one that's a difficult one for a lot of chapters, and talk about that. How do we keep the fun in the fundamentals for something like attendance? Years ago, we had a great chapter in Southern California. It was in the San Fernando Valley, and the founding president of the group was named Doug. Doug was the founding president. Well, he had stepped down as president and a couple of terms had gone by, and the group wasn't following the program very effectively, and membership started to go down. And they came to Doug and they said, Doug, we would love to have you come back in as president. Would you be willing to do that? And Doug said, yeah, I'd be glad to do that. However, I want to be able to talk to the chapter, and I want to make sure that we all get back to basics, that we all stick to the system, follow the policies. And if everybody's good with that, we're in. I'll do it. I'd be more than glad to be president again. So he went to the chapter and he said, yeah, I'll be glad to take it back over, but we got to get back to the fundamentals. And one of the biggest problems we have is attendance. People are missing too many meetings. So are you all on board? Will everybody make the meetings? And everyone's like, yeah, sure, Doug, whatever you want, we'll be there. So he took the position. No kidding. 5 weeks into his presidency, somebody had already missed 3 meetings. 3 meetings. His name was Frank. Frank missed 3 meetings in 5 weeks. Now, talking about keeping the fun in the fundamentals, toughest policy, attendance. How can someone keep this fun? Well, let me tell you what Doug did. Doug came to a meeting and he said, now a lot of presidents would come in and say, oh, you know, he's missed another meeting, you guys all promised, and they'd start berating the chapter. That's not what Doug did. Doug said, how many of you would be willing to give me 10 minutes of your time before 10 a.m. this morning? That's what I'd like. 10 minutes of your time before 10 a.m. Well, people like, well, what do you want us to do, Doug? He said, I'll explain, and if you don't want to do it, then we'll talk about that. But I want a full commitment from everyone in the room to give me 10 minutes of your time before 10 a.m. Now, this was years ago, back in the mid-1980s. And so people one at a time raised their hand and say, yeah, okay, what do you want us to do? He said, here's what I want you to do. Frank missed his 3rd meeting today. Frank's a good member. We like Frank. But he's missed a lot of meetings. So what I'd like you to do is as soon as you leave this meeting, I want you to go to your office, pick up the phone, and call Frank. Now you have to remember, this was in the 1980s. Nobody had mobile phones. Well, they had some. They looked like big walkie-talkies. They were these huge things. So very few people had mobile phones. So everybody had to go back to their office. He said, look, I want you to call Frank, and I don't want you to beat him up. I don't want you to complain. I don't want you to berate him. I want you to say, Frank, gee, we've really missed you. And if you know Frank, tell him why you missed him. If you don't know Frank, this is what he told the chapter. If you don't know Frank well, if you're a new member, you can say this and be honest. Frank, you contribute a lot to the group. You bring a lot of referrals. You're missed when you're not here. That's what I want you to do. And everyone's like, oh yeah, great. That sounds like fun. We'd love to do that. So they went out and did it. I wasn't at that meeting, but I was at the next meeting, and guess who was there? Frank. And we went around the room, people were introducing themselves, got to Frank. Frank stands up, no kidding, looks at the whole group, and he said, what the heck did you guys do last week? It's like 8:40 and my phone starts ringing off the hook. Secretaries, Frank, you've got a BNI member on line 1. Frank, you've got a BNI member on line 2. Frank, there's a BNI member on line 3 and 4. He said, well, what did you guys do last week? He said, look, I get the message. I'll be here. I won't miss any more meetings. And he laughed. The members laughed. But here's the question for you. Did Frank get it? Yeah, Frank got it. Not only did Frank get it, but the members got it. Everybody got it that if you want to get referrals, you got to be there. How many of you have ever gotten a haircut over the phone? Well, nobody. It's almost impossible. You can't do it. You got to be there. It's one of those things that you got to be there for. And that's what referral marketing is about. You have to be present if you want to generate referrals. You can keep the fun in the fundamentals. Okay, so attendance is the hardest policy. Let me give you another example of how you can keep the fun in the fundamentals regarding attendance. I went to visit a New York chapter years ago, and the vice president came to the meeting, and she had different colored envelopes. She had a big stack of white envelopes, and she had a big stack of yellow envelopes, and she had a big stack of blue envelopes. And she handed all these envelopes out to everybody, and she said, would you do me a favor, please? I need you to self-address one of each color. Of course, everybody said, yeah, okay, but why? And she said, I'll explain it in a minute. If you wouldn't mind just everybody filling out one of each color, I need your name and whatever address you might want anything sent to. So everybody filled it out. She collected it all. And when she had them all in her hands, she said, okay, you know those nasty grams that we send out that if you miss too many meetings, we let you know, hey, you've missed too many, and if you miss any more, you're going to be on probation, those kinds of things. And everyone's like, yes. She said, okay, so what I've done is I've stuffed all of these envelopes with those letters. The white one is the first one, the yellow one is the second one, and the blue one is the third one. If you get one of these, hey, you can't get mad at me. You filled it out yourself. You're sending it to yourself. Of course, everybody laughed, and nobody was upset. What's interesting is about 3 weeks later, she sent out her first envelope. Person gives her a call, says, hey, I got the white envelope. I didn't even open it. I know what it is. I'll make the next meeting. It's okay. Keep the fun in the fundamentals. Accountability is key in a successful referral network. You have to have the accountability, but you also have to follow the system. And if you can do it with a little fun, you're going to have great meetings. Let me give you one more idea. Meeting stimulants. Meeting stimulants. Okay, I'm not talking about good drugs, although some groups may need them. What I'm talking about are techniques that keep the meetings lively and interesting. Some are easy to do, some are difficult to do. Here's one that's very easy, and at this point in time, we have dozens and dozens of these. Go to your local director and get the list of meeting stimulants. Here's one that I really like, cards in a basket. It was one of the first ones that we ever did. What you do is you have everybody put their business cards in a basket, and someone reaches in and draws out a card. Whoever's card they draw out, they have to stand up and do that person's 60-second introduction. Now, the more you can use their mannerisms or use their speaking style, the funnier it is. I'll never forget going to a chapter meeting, and this woman pulled out a business card, and she was about, no kidding, 4'11", very short. And she pulls out this business card of a member who was an ex-college basketball player, very tall. I think he was about 6'5". So she pulls out his card, she pulls out her chair, she steps onto the chair. She's now standing on the chair, and she does his 60-second presentation using his mannerisms, talking like it. The room was in hysterics. They loved it. And by the way, she did a better job than he did on most of his 60-second presentations. Keep the fun in the fundamentals. Cards in a basket is a great meeting stimulant. One of my favorite ones is NET Radio. NET Radio. Look that one up. It's one of the most creative meeting stimulants I have ever seen. Basically, the president is the DJ, and every member has a 60-second commercial. Not a 30-second commercial, not a 45-second commercial, not a minute and a half. It is 60 seconds. And if they run short, it's dead air. So if you finish your commercial at 30 seconds, well, then you have 30 seconds of dead air. That was 5. So show the members how this works and give it a try. Some of the best presentations I have ever seen were in NET Radio. People come in very prepared to do their 60-second presentations. A lot of people bring in bumper music on a CD. Bumper music is where you just play a little bit of music, so if it runs short, then you start to play the music to wrap it up, or they'll record songs, or they'll sing the songs live. One of the best that I saw was an auto repair shop who came in and he did live person on the street interviews. And he had a microphone that wasn't hooked up, it was just a dead mic, but he walked around to members of the chapter who had used him. He'd say, "You've used Joe's auto repair shop. Tell us about your experience." And he'd hold the microphone up to them and they'd do this great testimonial or endorsement. And he did like 2 or 3 of them as though it were person on the street interviews. How creative. Some people sang, many people did audio-visual stuff, they did person on the street interviews. Really creative, very fun, but really stuck to the fundamentals. Probably the best set of 60-second presentations that I ever saw. Meeting stimulants. Some are easy, some are difficult. Try different ones over time. I recommend that you don't do more than one every 6 or 8 weeks. It can be too much. But try an easy one and then do a more difficult one. One of the easy ones is industry trends. Anybody can do this one. You come in and you talk about a trend in your profession, something that's going on in your industry. Talk about that for 60 seconds. So maybe one meeting stimulant is something like industry trends, and then the next meeting stimulant 6 weeks or 8 weeks later is something like NET Radio. If you mix it up like that, you can get some outstanding meeting stimulants and, most importantly, keep the fun in the fundamentals. It is one of the core traditions of BNI and a successful networking organization. This is Dr. Ivan Misner. Thanks for watching.